Welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast with Scott MacKenzie. Scott is a passionate industry professional dedicated to transferring cutting-edge, industry-focused innovations and trends while highlighting the men and women who keep the world moving. So put on your hard hat, grab your work boots, and let's go.
All right, once again, welcome to Industrial Talk. Thank you very much for joining the #1 industrial-related podcast in the universe that celebrates industry professionals all around the world. You are bold, you are brave, you dare greatly, you innovate, you solve problems, and that's why you are changing the world each and every day. If you can tell by the buzz in the background, we are at Distributech. This is Orlando, Florida, and it is a collection of problem solvers within the utility space, power, you name it, it's here. I'm just stuck in the salt mine. I won't be able to walk around, which is just a very depressing thought. However, I can handle it. In the hot seat, we have two. We have two from cross-discipline engineering. One, Bill Cappel? Cappel.
Yes, sir.
Cappel with a C. See, you corrected me. Very good.
Yeah.
And Kyle Slagle. God,
Love
butchered it all.
We threw in the curveball with the names, right?
Big time. which is a common challenge for me. How you guys doing today? You having a good conference?
So far,
we're
so
doing
good.
great. Yes.
So you've been to this conference a couple of times.
Correct.
What makes it a good conference?
I'll tell you what.
I'm sorry. You know,
the last
this
few
is
years,
just for a point of,
Yeah.
I should say, Kyle. What makes it a good conference? That would be the professional thing I should do.
You bet. We can volley back and forth.
Yeah.
It's good. But coming, the last few years I've been here, the networking is what's good. Lots of new solutions out here. Lots of people to talk to. Innovation's happening all around us.
Oh.
And if you want to know where you're lacking or where you're leading, this is the place. You can find it here.
It's true. I just had a conversation with a gentleman by the name of Jim, and we were just talking about the industry in general, about all of the technology, the innovation that is happening, and the solutions that can exist here. It's nuts. It's happening at a rapid pace. Again, way above my pay grade. So let's start with a little background. Kyle, we start with you. Give us a little background on who you are.
All right. Well, I tell you, I'm a solutions expert, looking to partner with folks to find solutions to your problems. And I know that's a broad range, right?
It is.
But in the power industry, what we find is there's so many things available. But if you don't know, then you don't know. Mm-hmm. And so talking with folks, trying to figure out what their problem is, that becomes my niche, right? What is your problem? And then I go to work with the team behind me to figure out what's the solution we can bring to you. Full line of engineering services behind us at cross-discipline engineering, right? In the power space. And so we're seeing a lot of stuff. We're out here finding the new stuff. And so that's what I do. That's my background, is to try and find the problem and then go to solving it.
But did you have a utility background?
I do,
growing
yes.
up as a boy?
Well, not as a boy maybe, but as a younger me. I did spend 14 years with an IOU. When I left that company a few years back.
Independent system operator.
That's right. I left there as director of engineering. And so a lot of experience in trying to solve problems from the IOU side, and now helping.
See, here's the deal with the IOU. With all of the changes that are taking place within the just grid management.
Yes.
I don't know. My background's utilities. I was a transmission lineman. Back then, it was pretty straightforward. Power, transmission, distribution, don't make the lights go out. There it is. Pretty simple business model. But nowadays, how do you match supply and demand? I can't tell you. Bill, background.
Yeah, I am our director of field services for cross-discipline engineering. And on the field services side, it's out in the field. We got retired linemen. We've got young guys getting out doing construction observation, field work, data collection, so on and so forth. Before here, I'm retired military. I was in 21 years in the CBs, mobile utility support equipment, mobile power plants, mobile substations. We move them anywhere in the world, operate them, test them, maintain them, give power to where facilities, cold iron support, so on and so forth. So I did that for quite a long time. Retired back in 17 and been in CDE basically ever since.
You stink, Kyle. That's cool. That's cool sort of.
It's a blast.
I know. I love it.
Well, thank you for your service. I really
thank
do.
you.
So let's talk a little bit about engineering. many of the conversations that I've had so far revolve around that innovation, trying to be carbon neutral. What are the strategies associated with that, and how do you keep the lights from flickering, keep them on, safe, reliable power, right? Kyle, where do we begin? Okay, Bill, where do we begin?
It's hard. You're right. So deep breath.
He had it right. He was like, "Oh man, that's a loaded question."
No,
we really got to start with the goal, right? Like you said, we're trying to solve problems for so many goals all at once. We have to pick a priority, right? And there can be priority 2 goals, but there has to be one goal you're trying to hit. When you can solve that, then you can move on to others. But when you're trying to solve everything you just mentioned all at once, it becomes a big, massive problem that is almost too complex. But you start with the top, and then you move down slowly, progressively through the goals you want to hit. So where we're starting really is, what is the ultimate goal? Some people are really trying to be carbon neutral, but some people are saying, I want to be carbon neutral, but I don't want to spend any money. Those two are hard.
Yeah, I was just going to say, good luck.
That's right. So we really got to say, okay, what's the priority here? What are we trying to solve? We can find solutions. It's about implementation in the end.
What about you, Bill? What do you see? You in agreement with our friend?
I am. At the end of the day, the potential client or the client, the utility, whatever you want to call them, they have to identify what their needs are. And we cannot sacrifice reliability, right?
No.
And so that's one of the biggest issues, is how do we move towards carbon neutral without sacrificing reliability? And we don't want to necessarily pay for it, or we don't want to have exorbitant costs coming associated with that. So we have to identify, like Kyle was saying, we have to identify the problem, their main problem that they want to solve, assist that client in solving that problem, and then move them from there.
But don't you have to understand where the market is going, relatively speaking, and the demands that are being placed on the market to be able to guide your client in a way that makes sense? The problem that I might see is relevant to me, and not to diminish it, might not be a real long-term type of solution that is necessary to achieve or to deal with the pressures of the market. Do you agree, Kyle?
Yeah, I agree. And I think that one thing I didn't say, and I really want to add in here, is where we start is to realize that we're trying to make a massive shift. And it's not going to happen in 1 year, right? So many times we're trying to combine all these things. We need to make steps in the right direction, and that's going to lead us down the right path. And that actually gets us back to where the problem is manageable, right? And you can now address what you're trying to do for your customers, right, as a utility, while you're making steps in the right direction.
There are so many. For example, whenever I look at what's taking place in the market and looking at all of the real innovation and the changes that are being pushed into the market itself, if I was an executive, if I was king for the day, I would be overwhelmed. And I would be overwhelmed in such a way, Bill, that I wouldn't know where to focus. Do you guys take your clients through? It's like, okay, I got it. I hear you. You got this, and this. And, oh, by the way, you saw this on the internet. Now you have that problem. Do you, in a way, help me travel that road?
Absolutely. And thank you for the question. Part of our paradigm with CDE is we have four steps in the process, right? The first step is to understand. And we have to be able to work with our client. We have to understand what are their concerns and to be able to address those. And so the first step is to understand. The second part is going to be to anticipate. So trying to anticipate what we need to do to help them achieve whatever outcome that they're trying to achieve. From a design side, from a reliability side, it doesn't matter. And then we have to communicate those expectations or what we think is their needs back to that client, and then we help them execute. And that's the loop that we try to bring the client in and work them through that process. Understand, communicate, anticipate, and execute. And that works really, really well for us.
See, and it should work very well with whatever industry, because that makes sense, because there's constant. How do you, Kyle, deal with and work with the regulatory side of these decisions? Because again, I don't want to spend money. I want to come home. I want to flip my switch. I want to turn on my computer. I want to watch a movie, whatever it might be. But then to achieve some of these requirements require, well, money, rate case stuff. Do you guys, how do you sort of navigate those waters, Kyle?
Yeah, so I say there's a couple ways, right? The regulatory body is what it is, and those rules are what they are. Now, some people that want to go home and flip the switch and watch their Netflix, they can vote, right? They have a way to go out and vote and change some of those policies if they want. And if they don't, we end up following the rules, right? Helping our clients make sure they're within the rules, but also anticipating what rule changes might come in the future, right? So that we're not doing a project and then 5 years later you have to undo or redo what's going on. So that's part of the anticipation phase. And it's really about asking our clients to get out there and be proactive with the regulatory body, right? Understand where they're going and understand where the barriers or the rules are today, because they are shifting. They're constantly shifting in the environment today. And a lot of it has to do with the speed, right? We talked about how fast people want to move to the new solutions. Regulatory bodies are, commonly behind.
Not known for being nimble.
No. That's right.
Nimble regulator. No. Jumbo shrimp.
Does not pair together.
It doesn't work.
Right. But yeah, there's a lot of 5-year and 10-year goals out there that will see a lot of regulatory change, compared to the last 50 years. So it is very important that we build that into our solutions and at least understand what's coming down the pike from that perspective.
With that said, and you sort of run the blanket across your client base, what are some of the challenges bubble up? What are they saying? Gosh, I need whatever. Bill.
Yeah. I like it. We're looking kind of
left
debating.
You hanging
I like
again.
It. No, standards. Standards verification is a huge one, right? Standardization, right? Making sure that your standards are up to date. We were just actually Kyle and I were just talking about that a little bit ago. A lot of utilities, their standards may be 30, 40, 50 years old, done back in the 60s.
Interesting.
And trying to help them bring their standards up to date, bring them into from a
give an example
paper.
like a standard.
This RUS, right? Yeah. RUS standards. If you're talking 14.4 to 2400 or 24,000 volts, having a standard for a distribution structure, right? They can have a very basic level of a standard in the RUS document. I'm just using that as an example, and you can see on the cooperative side of the house, it's pretty much the same, whether it's dash or dot is immaterial, but roughly stays the same. But then you can have an IOU or maybe a different client that have really old standards, just really have not updated it into newer technologies. And that's one of the areas that CDE we can help those clients out with, is updating their individual standards. On the electrical side, or was it Rural Unification Standards?
Yep.
Okay.
And so being able to update their individual standards to meet today's requirements, to be able to apply them to designs or drawings or engineering practices. So that's one of those areas where we're seeing clients or utilities need that assistance. It's just updating. That's a basic thing, is updating their systems, their standards.
Go ahead.
Yeah, something as simple, I'll just go to this, is the concrete mixes and steel you put in your substations.
Yeah.
All right, some of the standards we're looking at are 1975, right? But there's a lot of technology.
I would think that's early.
That's right, and for some it is. For some it is. But, the transformer manufacturers, they've changed how they're doing steel. When you get a transformer, and so they're fitting different, you need to adjust those to what the new technology is producing. We're producing different products today, and yet we're using these old standards. And so what it does is it causes a problem during construction, right? Or it causes you have to go into every single project and update bill of material list because it's not the same provider that it was in 1975. The utility space, is just as any other industry, is short, right, on people, right? There's a lot of people out there, but we don't have enough people in the utility space to keep up with that. So sometimes that gets left to the very back burner. It's getting to a point now where we have to address it.
That was a fascinating observation. I work with an organization on standards, but not those type of standards. And people don't realize how important standards are. Like, it's that consistent idea of how to do certain things, and does it mesh together, and everybody's sort of rowing in the same direction. Here's an ISO question. So my my knowledge of the utilities back when I was a transmission lineman is pretty straightforward. Power, transmission, distribution, boom, home, or wherever it is. And then in the world of the system operator, they would say, okay, supply and demand, I'm matching it, it's all good, everything's fine, because that's important. How do they do it today? How do they manage supply, demand, and all of the stuff that's so dynamic on the system?
Yeah, so today they're raising it to a higher level. A lot of automated machinery, like technology coming in, that's adjusting that on the fly. At the power pool level is really where it's being managed today, not necessarily at the individual utility level, which is good, right? And that's all good. But putting in the infrastructure so that when the power pool calls for it, rather than making phone calls and double checking and triple checking, you still have to do those things, but there are some protocols in place where you can just make the automatic adjustment. So the power pool can adjust the power plant directly if it's already online to what it needs and what it's seeing for forecasting.
Yeah, because again, there's a lot of this stuff is way above my pay grade, and I was just rudimentary in my way of looking at the grid and how it works, and it made sense. And when it was back then, it's like, nope, no power. But it gets to that innovation. It gets to that the technology to be able to deal with that in a dynamic way.
Right, and it's no different. We see the AI wave coming in, right?
Yeah.
It's no different than that. You're just accumulating data at a higher level and letting, today we have operators making those decisions or overseeing the decisions being made by the systems, right? And the more that technology comes in, the more automated it gets. And so what it's doing is it's making us have more specific, detailed knowledge, for an employee to run that system. But you need fewer of them. Right. But it's bringing in very specified knowledge, which is going to make it hard to get those operators as well in the future. Right. There's fewer jobs. There's fewer people going down that path because you can use fewer people, but that becomes another bottleneck down the road.
Oh yeah. If not just risk.
I agree. Risk. Yeah. Now, it used to be possible to start some of these power systems, especially some of the water systems, without the electricity. And all manual dials, all manual levers, right?
Yeah.
And we're changing now. There's very few that are left that way. You need some type of electric, and so we're putting in backup electric systems, right? But it's not something that you can just go in there, pull a few dials, pull a few levers, and put this thing online manually anymore.
Wow. Bill, how do people get a hold of you?
So our main area is going to be through our website, crossdiscipline.com. That's going to be the easy way to get a hold of us. So feel free, get on our website, take a look, reach out to us. There is a connect button there, and we'll be getting back in touch with you.
Are you on LinkedIn?
We are. We've been posting for Distributech 24 as well, so feel free to find us there.
Kyle, you on LinkedIn?
I'm on LinkedIn, yes.
You guys are active on LinkedIn?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
We
Relatively
monitor. So, yeah, cross-discipline on LinkedIn is monitored, absolutely.
Yes.
God. You guys are great, man.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
I really
Scott.
appreciate it.
Yes,
all right,
sir.
we're going to have all the contact information for these two gents out on Industrial Talk, so fear not, reach out to them. As well as their, with cross-discipline. I'm so glad you got that URL, cross-discipline. That's pretty good.
Awesome.
Paid
Love
premium
it.
probably right? All right, we're broadcasting from Distributech here in Orlando, Florida. It is a collection of problem solvers. As you can tell by Bill and Kyle, problem solving is the name of the game. All right, we're going to wrap it up on the other side. Stay tuned. We will be right back.
You're listening to the Industrial Talk Podcast Network.
That's Kyle. That's Bill. Cross-discipline engineering is the organization. We were on site, Distributech, and of course, there's PowerGen too. They're both sort of one and the same, sort of. But if you're in the world of power, if you're in the world of utilities and energy and all of that good stuff, those two events, Distributech, PowerGen, must attend. Mad innovations taking place in those markets, big time. All right. Contact information for those two gents out on Industrial Talk. Let's say you have a podcast. You want greater attention. You want greater attraction to what you are saying. Put it out on Industrial Talk. That's what it's there for. That platform is there for you. You have a technology. You have solutions. Put it out on Industrial Talk. We're here specifically to get that message out. That's our purpose. We want you to succeed. Please join the ecosystem. All right. Be bold, be brave, dare greatly. Hang out with Bill and Kyle. Change the world. We're going to have another great conversation shortly, so stay tuned.